Every morning, before the world touches your mind, something dangerous happens. A silent conversation begins inside you, and most people don't even realize it. But that voice is shaping their entire life. Before you speak to anyone, before you check your phone, before your day even starts, you are already deciding whether today will be heavy or peaceful, stressful or powerful, empty or meaningful. And here's the truth no one tells you. You don't become what you wish for. You become what you repeat to yourself every morning. Ancient Buddhist wisdom understood this deeply. They knew that a single thought at the start of your day can quietly control everything that follows. So if your days feel the same, if your mind feels restless, if something in your life isn't changing, maybe it's not your life that needs to change. Maybe it's what you tell yourself. In the first few minutes after you wake up, in this video, you'll discover 5 powerful things you must say every morning. And if you truly understand them, your mind will never be the same again. Today is a new beginning. Most people wake up, but they don't actually start fresh. They open their eyes and instantly carry yesterday with them. Yesterday's stress, yesterday's mistakes, yesterday's emotions. Without realizing it, they step into a new day with an old mind. And that is why nothing changes. Because when your thoughts are the same, your life stays the same. But Buddhism teaches something very simple and very powerful. The past is gone, not slowly disappearing, not fading away, completely gone. It only exists in your memory, yet it controls how you feel today. Think about that. Something that no longer exists is shaping your present moment. This is where suffering begins, because the moment you hold on to yesterday, you lose the chance to experience today. You repeat the same patterns, you feel the same emotions, you become the same person again, and then you wonder why your life feels stuck. But every morning, life gives you a quiet opportunity, a chance to begin again. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a simple, silent moment where you can choose differently. And most people miss it, because instead of stepping into the present, they step back into the past. So the moment you wake up, before anything else, tell yourself, today is a new beginning. Not as motivation, but as truth, because you are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are not your failures. You are only what you choose to be. Right now, this moment is clean, untouched, open, full of possibility, but only if you allow it to be. If you keep replaying the past, you will keep reliving it. But if you let it go, even for a moment, something shifts. Your mind becomes lighter, your thoughts become clearer, your actions become more intentional, and slowly, your life begins to change. Not because something outside changed, but because you stopped holding on to what was already gone. So tomorrow morning, pause. Before your mind runs into old habits, before your emotions take over, remind yourself, today is a new beginning. And the moment you truly believe that, you stop repeating your past and you start creating your future. 2. I cannot control everything. Most people wake up already tense, already planning, already trying to control the day. They want everything to go right. They want people to behave a certain way. They want situations to unfold perfectly. They want life to follow their expectations. And when it doesn't, frustration begins. Stress builds. Anger rise. Anxiety takes over. Not because life is difficult, but because reality did not match their control. This is one of the deepest sources of suffering. The belief that you can control what was never yours to control. Buddhism teaches a quiet but powerful truth. You are not in control of everything. Not people, not outcomes, not how the world behaves around you. And the more you try to control these things, the more exhausted your mind becomes. Think about how much energy you waste, worrying about what might happen, replaying what someone said, trying to predict outcomes you cannot guarantee. All of it creates tension. All of it pulls you away from peace. But the moment you accept this truth, something shifts. So every morning, remind yourself, I cannot control everything. At first, this may feel uncomfortable because control feels like safety, but in reality, it is the opposite. Control creates pressure. It creates fear of things going wrong. It keeps your mind constantly on edge. Acceptance creates freedom, because when you stop trying to control everything, you stop fighting reality. You allow things to unfold. You respond instead of react. You become calm, even when life is unpredictable. This does not mean you stop trying. It means you focus only on what is truly yours, your thoughts, your actions, your choices, and you release the rest. When you do this, your mind becomes lighter. You stop overthinking every situation. You stop stressing over things you cannot change. And slowly, you begin to trust life more. So tomorrow morning, before the day begins, pause and remind yourself, I cannot control everything. And in that moment of acceptance, you will feel something rare, not weakness, but peace. 3. I choose my response. There is a moment so small that most people never notice it. A moment between what happens to you and how you react. Someone says something that hurts you. A plan suddenly falls apart. You receive news you didn't expect, and almost instantly, your mind jumps in. You feel anger. You feel frustration. You feel the urge to react, to defend, to fight back. It feels automatic, as if you had no choice, as if the situation forced you to feel that way. But Buddhism teaches something that can completely transform your life. There is always a space between the event and your response, and in that space lies your power. The problem is, most people never see that space because they are too fast, too reactive, too conditioned, too used to letting emotions take control, so they react without awareness. And then later, they regret. They regret the words they said. They regret the anger they showed. They regret how they let a small moment ruin their entire day. But by then, it's too late. The damage is done. The emotion has already taken over. Now imagine something different. Imagine waking up in the morning and reminding yourself, I choose my response. Not the situation, not other people, not the world, but my response. This single thought begins to slow you down. It creates awareness, and awareness changes everything. Because the next time something happens, you don't immediately react. You pause, even if it's just for a second, and in that second, something powerful happens. You see the emotion rising. You feel the anger, the frustration, the urge, but instead of becoming it, you observe it, and that changes the entire outcome. Because when you observe your emotion, you are no longer controlled by it. You are separate from it. This is the difference between living unconsciously and living with awareness. Most people believe, he made me angry. She ruined my mood. This situation stressed me out. But the truth is, the situation triggered something inside you, and then you responded. That response is yours. And if it is yours, it means you can change it. This realization is not easy, because it removes blame. It removes the ability to point at others and say, it's your fault. Instead, it brings everything back to you. Your reactions, your emotions, your choices. And that can feel uncomfortable. But it is also incredibly empowering. Because the moment you understand that your response is your choice, you stop being a victim of circumstances. You stop being controlled by people's words. You stop being shaken by every small disturbance in life. Instead, you become stable, calm, grounded. Think about how many times your day has been ruined, not by what happened, but by how you reacted to it. A single comment replayed in your mind all day. A small mistake turned into hours of self-criticism. A minor inconvenience turned into frustration and anger. It wasn't the event itself. It was your response. Now imagine if you responded differently. Imagine if instead of reacting instantly, you paused. And in that pause, you chose. You chose not to take it personally. You chose not to escalate the situation. You chose not to let it disturb your inner peace. Suddenly, the same situation has no power over you, because your peace is no longer dependent on what happens. It is dependent on how you respond. This is what Buddhism calls mastery of the mind. Not controlling the world, but mastering yourself within it. And it begins with a simple practice. Every morning, before your day begins, remind yourself, I choose my response. Say it slowly. Let it sink into your awareness. Because during the day, you will be tested. Someone will say something you don't like. Something will not go as planned. Life will not be perfect. And in that moment, you will have two paths. The unconscious path, where you react instantly, driven by emotion, or the aware path, where you pause, observe, and choose. The difference between these two paths is the difference between chaos and peace. At first, you may forget. You may still react quickly. You may still get carried away by emotion. That's okay. Awareness is a practice, but the more you remind yourself, the more that small space begins to grow. The space between stimulus and response becomes clearer, more visible, more accessible, and slowly, you begin to live differently. You speak more consciously. You react less impulsively. You feel more in control of your inner world. And something surprising happens. Your relationships improve because you no longer react with anger. Your stress decreases because you no longer amplify every situation. Your mind becomes quieter because you are not constantly caught in emotional storms. All of this from one simple realization. You choose your response, not once, but again and again throughout the day. This is not about suppressing emotions. It is about understanding them, seeing them clearly, without being controlled by them. Because emotions are temporary, they rise and they fall. But your awareness can remain steady. And when your awareness is steady, no situation can take away your peace. So tomorrow morning, before the world reaches you, before anything disturbs your mind, pause it and remind yourself, I choose my response. And when the moment comes, use that space. Because in that space, you don't just control your reaction, you shape your life. For nothing is permanent. There is something the human mind desperately wants to believe, that what it feels right now will last. When you are in pain, it feels endless. When you are anxious, it feels permanent. When life becomes heavy, it feels like it will always be this way. And this belief silently increases your suffering, because it turns a temporary moment into something that feels eternal. But Buddhism reveals a truth that is both unsettling and deeply freeing. Nothing is permanent. Not your emotions, not your problems, not your circumstances, not even the version of yourself you think you are right now. Everything is in motion. Everything is changing, whether you notice it or not. The problem is, your mind resists this. It clings. It holds on to pain as if it defines you. It holds on to fear as if it protects you. It holds on to identity as if it is fixed. And in doing so, it creates suffering. Because when you try to hold on to something that is constantly changing, you create tension. You create resistance. You create a silent battle with reality. Think about a moment in your life when you felt completely overwhelmed. A moment where you thought, this is too much, I can't handle this. At that time, it felt permanent. It felt like it would never end. But it did. It passed. Maybe slowly, maybe painfully, but it passed. And now, it is just a memory. This is the nature of life. Everything you experience, no matter how intense, will eventually change. But in the middle of the experience, you forget this. You get lost in the emotion. You believe it completely. And that belief makes the experience heavier than it actually is. Now imagine something different. Imagine waking up in the morning and reminding yourself, nothing is permanent, not as a theory, but as a deep understanding. This changes the way you experience everything. When something difficult happens, you don't panic in the same way, because you know this will pass. When you feel sadness, you don't drown in it, because you know this feeling is temporary. When life becomes uncertain, you don't feel completely lost, because you understand change is part of the process. This awareness doesn't remove pain, but it removes the fear that the pain will last forever. And that alone brings a sense of relief. Most suffering is not just about what you are going through. It is about the belief that it will never end. The mind says, this will always be like this. I will always feel this way. Nothing will ever change. But these thoughts are not truth. They are illusions created by the intensity of the moment, because reality is always moving, always shifting, always transforming. Now, this truth has another side, one that is often ignored. Not only is pain temporary, but pleasure is also temporary. The good moments, the happy experiences, the things you enjoy, they also pass. And this can feel uncomfortable, because the mind wants to hold on to happiness. It wants things to stay the same. It wants comfort to last forever. But when you understand impermanence deeply, you stop clinging. You stop trying to freeze moments in time, and instead, you begin to appreciate them more, because you know they will not last. You become more present, more aware, more grateful. You start to experience life more fully, because you are no longer trying to control it. You are allowing it, flowing with it, living it as it is. This is the balance that Buddhism teaches. Do not cling to pain. Do not cling to pleasure. Understand that both will come and both will go. And in that understanding, you find peace. Now think about your current situation. Whatever you are going through right now, pause for a moment and ask yourself, will this last forever? The honest answer is always the same. No, it will change. It may take time. It may not change in the way you expect, but it will not remain the same. And when you truly accept this, something inside you relaxes. The urgency fades. The heaviness softens. You stop fighting the moment, and you start moving through it. This is what it means to live with awareness, to see reality as it is, not as your mind imagines it. And it all begins with a simple reminder. Every morning, before your thoughts take over, before your emotions define your state, tell yourself, nothing is permanent. Say it slowly. Let it settle in your mind. Because during the day, you will face moments that challenge you, moments where you feel overwhelmed, moments where things don't go your way, moments where emotions rise strongly. And in those moments, this truth will bring you back. It will remind you that this is not forever, that this is just a passing wave. And like every wave, it will rise and it will fall. You don't need to stop it. You don't need to fight it. You just need to let it pass. The more you practice this, the more your relationship with life changes. You become less reactive, less fearful, less attached, and more peaceful, because you are no longer trying to hold on to something that cannot be held. You are simply experiencing it and letting it go. This is freedom, not controlling life, but understanding its nature. And once you understand that nothing is permanent, you stop fearing change, you stop resisting reality, and you begin to trust the flow of life. So tomorrow morning, before anything else, pause and remind yourself, nothing is permanent, and carry this awareness with you. Because no matter what happens, no matter what you feel, no matter what you face, it will pass. And in that truth, you will find a peace that does not depend on anything staying the same. 5. I am enough in this moment. From the moment most people wake up, a quiet pressure begins, a feeling that something is missing. Not successful enough, not confident enough, not disciplined enough, not good enough. Before the day even starts, there is already a sense of lack, and this feeling silently follows you everywhere. It shapes your decisions. It shapes your mood. It shapes the way you see yourself. You begin to believe that you must become something more before you can feel peace. So you chase success, hoping it will finally make you feel complete. You chase approval, hoping others will confirm your worth. You chase perfection, believing that one day you will be enough. But that day never comes, because the mind keeps moving the target. Even when you achieve something, it says, "This is not enough." Even when you improve, it says, "You still need more." Even when you grow, it says, "You are still behind." This is the trap. A life spent chasing a version of yourself that always stays just out of reach. And in that chase, you forget something simple and powerful. You are already enough in this moment. Not when you become successful. Not when you fix everything. Not when you reach some future version of yourself. Now, exactly as you are. Buddhism does not teach you to become perfect. It teaches you to see clearly, to see that the idea of not enough is created by the mind, a thought repeated so many times that it feels like truth. But it is not truth. It is a habit, a pattern of thinking that keeps you restless, unsatisfied, constantly seeking. Now think about this. Who told you that you are not enough? Was it society? Was it comparison? Was it past experiences? Somewhere along the way, you learned to measure yourself, to compare yourself with others, to judge yourself based on standards that are constantly changing. And slowly, you started believing that who you are is not sufficient. But here is the reality. At this moment, you are breathing, you are aware, you are alive, and that alone is enough to begin. You don't need to be perfect to take a step forward. You don't need to have everything figured out to start your day. You don't need to become someone else to have value. You already have it. The problem is not that you are lacking. The problem is that you are not seeing what is already there. So every morning, before the world tells you who you should be, before comparison enters your mind, you must remind yourself, "I am enough in this moment." At first, your mind may resist this. It may argue. It may say, "No, I still need to improve. I still have flaws. I am not where I want to be." And that is true. Growth is part of life, but there is a difference between growing from a place of wholeness and growing from a place of lack. When you believe you are not enough, your actions are driven by fear. Fear of being left behind. Fear of not being accepted. Fear of not being worthy. And this creates pressure. It creates anxiety. It makes every step feel heavy. But when you understand that you are already enough, your actions come from a different place. A place of calm. A place of self-respect. A place of inner stability. You still grow. You still improve. You still move forward. But you do it without the constant pressure of proving yourself. You do it because you choose to, not because you feel incomplete. This changes everything. Because now, your peace is not dependent on outcomes. It is not dependent on validation. It is not dependent on becoming something else. It exists, here and now. This does not mean you ignore your goals. It means you stop attaching your worth to them. You stop saying, "I will be enough when I achieve this." And instead, you say, "I am enough now, and I choose to grow." This is a powerful shift, because it removes the constant tension in your mind. It removes the feeling of being behind. It removes the endless comparison and replaces it with quiet confidence. Now think about how your day would feel if you started it with this understanding. No pressure to prove yourself. No need to compare yourself. No constant voice telling you that you are not enough. Just a calm awareness that you are already whole. From that place, everything changes. You speak differently. You act differently. You carry yourself differently. Because you are no longer trying to fill a void. You are simply expressing who you already are. This is what true confidence looks like. Not loud, not forced, not dependent on others, but quiet, stable, unshaken. And it begins with a simple reminder. Every morning, before anything else, tell yourself, "I am enough in this moment." Say it without rushing. Let it sink into your awareness. Because throughout the day, your mind will try to pull you back. It will compare. It will judge. It will create doubt. And in those moments, Return to this truth, not as an affirmation, but as a realization. You are not lacking. You are not incomplete. You are already enough to live this day fully. And from that place, you can still grow. You can still improve. You can still become more. But you are no longer running from yourself. You are moving with yourself. And that is where real peace begins. So tomorrow morning, before the noise begins, before the world tells you what you should be, pause and remind yourself, I am enough in this moment, and carry that awareness with you. Because the moment you truly believe it, you stop chasing worth, and you start living with it. If you truly understand these 5 lessons, your mornings will never feel the same again. Not because your life suddenly becomes perfect, but because your mind becomes different. You stop waking up with pressure, and start waking up with awareness. You stop reacting without thinking, and start choosing how you live each moment. You stop chasing something outside, and begin to find peace within. But here is the truth most people ignore. Listening is not enough. Even understanding is not enough. Change only happens when you practice. When you wake up tomorrow, there will be a moment, small and quiet, before your phone, before your thoughts start racing, before the world enters your mind. That moment is your power, and what you tell yourself in that moment will shape everything that follows. So don't rush past it. Pause it and remind yourself of these truths. Not once, but every day. Because transformation is not a single decision. It is something you build, one morning at a time. And slowly, without even realizing it, your mind will become calmer. Your reactions will become wiser. Your life will begin to feel lighter. Not because the world changed, but because you did.